So you wanna know all the latest gaming news without searching and scrolling? I got you. The first big May release was this thing. Mixtape promises a grand finale to the adolescent years of three friends in the 90s, and judging by both its setting and its title, it heavily leans into soundtracks, nostalgia, and the simpler, rebellious times before the technological era we live in today. The setting alone, similar to what we know from shows like Stranger Things, is very appealing, but in my opinion, Mixtape romanticizes it far beyond the point of nostalgic optimism and straight into cringe territory. Overall, this roughly 3-hour story feels more like an interactive movie than a traditional game, though IGN once again didn't disappoint and gave it a humble 10 out of 10. And I'm sure that definitely has nothing to do with the fact that the studio behind the game is owned by the daughter of the 6th richest person in the world, right? When I start talking about the studio Supermassive Games, some of you might not know what I mean. But if I mention games like Until Dawn, The Quarry or the Dark Pictures Anthology, more of you should catch on. And it's exactly this studio that recently released the new sci-fi game Directive 8020. While it didn't receive the best reviews, mainly because of its repetitive stealth gameplay and underwhelming character personalities, it does bring the possibility of playing with 1 to 4 additional players thanks to its 5 different characters, though unfortunately only by passing the controller around at certain points, like in the good old days. Without a debate, the biggest gaming experience of the year for me so far has been the newly released Subnautica 2, even despite the fact that it's still only in early access on PC and is missing a huge portion of the story and probably an even bigger portion of the map. The biggest change compared to previous entries is of course co-op, which finally gives meaning to the repetitive base building and survival gameplay, alongside a new story and several quality life improvements. Otherwise though, it's still the Subnautica we all love, except this time we don't have to swim through dangerous waters alone. However, if you want the complete experience, you'll still have to wait quite a long time. It's here. Tomorrow, Forza Horizon 6 finally releases, and as we all already know at this point, it will make use of the mountainous roads, peaceful countryside, and glowing city streets of Japan. Besides beautiful graphics, exciting races, and the widest selection of JDM cars yet, we can also look forward to seasonal updates and even community car meets. For all Warhammer fans, I have good news. I don't know exactly what news yet, but we'll find out in just 3 days on May 21st during the Warhammer Skulls 2026 announcement, where they'll discuss the upcoming Warhammer 40,000 Dawn of War 4 and Dark Heresy, as well as the future of older titles like Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2, Darktide and Boltgun. From the brutal world of Warhammer, we jump to something significantly cuter. This lovable character from Super Mario known as Yoshi, his full name being Theropoda Yoshisaur Manchakupas. This adorable dinosaur is finally getting another standalone game titled Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. This charming cartoon platformer will take us on an innocent adventure starting May 21st. The very next day brings what is probably the most anticipated LEGO game in history, LEGO Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight. The game will apparently spoil us with nearly every version of Batman, his allies, and even his enemies. Besides an open world Gotham, the Batcave, and Batmobiles, we can also look forward to legendary voice actors such as Morgan Freeman in the role of Lucius Fox. Yes, there really is a new James Bond game. 007 First Light releases in basically a week, so let's quickly sum up what we're getting. A young rookie James Bond just getting his license to kill, stealth and parkour in the style of Uncharted or Tomb Raider but with spy gadgets, Aston Martin DBS, DB9, Valhalla and maybe some others, and of course the classic dose of 007 action filled with explosions, chases and shootouts. While Secret Agent James Bond is ironically known by the whole world, this little puppy is probably only recognized by the youngest among us. Bluey is an Australian cartoon about a blue puppy named Bluey, which received its own game for Android and Apple phones last year, and thanks to its popularity, the game is now making its way to PC and consoles, where its beautiful cartoon visuals and relaxing gameplay might hopefully charm even the older audience. And it's exactly the older audience that will appreciate the remake of this legendary game. Gothic was one of the first RPGs that didn't hold the player's hand at all. You didn't play as some overpowered magical hero, but as an ordinary helpless person who had to earn and gain every bit of strength and skill. I'd even dare to say that Kingdom Come Deliverance was directly inspired by Gothic. But after a long 25 years, this legendary RPG is finally getting a remake, which, as per usual, looks exactly the way I remembered the game from my childhood, even though it really looked like a bunch of polygons smashed together. Get your bingo cards ready, but I doubt that anyone would have predicted this one. The new Monopoly Star Wars Heroes vs. Villains sounded like a late April Fool's when it was announced, but it's actually real, and this virtual board game mixed with the legendary space adventure is already on the way. We all know how games of Monopoly usually end, so if losing makes you want to beat somebody up, you can immediately boot up the new UFC 6. Compared to the previous version, it introduces major changes, some focused on realism, such as improved ragdoll physics, more realistic injury reactions, and a greater emphasis on body advantages, like the further reach of longer arms. Other changes, however, focus more on arcade-style gameplay, like the brand new flow state, which activates after building up adrenaline and gives you a few seconds of slow motion and reduces damage taken and increases attack damage. Yeah, UFC is slowly turning into Mortal Kombat. And next month we'll finally take a closer look at Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced, and with a little bit of luck, maybe even at the third trailer for GTA 6. But until then, that's all, and I'll see you later.